Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the Senate is at a crossroads. Senate Democrats, at the behest of outside far-left activist groups, are leading the charge to break nearly a 230-year-old precedent of confirming Supreme Court nominees by a simple majority vote. Why? Well, when you go down the list, there is only one reason. That reason is not based on substance or reality. It's purely partisan. Judge Gorsuch is eminently qualified. That does not seem to be in dispute. His credentials are exceptional. His resume is impressive. His judicial demeanor, professional competence, and integrity all exceed what you expect in a nominee for the highest court in the land. Judge Gorsuch checks every box, so much so that the American Bar Association gave Judge Gorsuch its highest rating. The ABA's assessment, mind you, has been referred to by the minority leader as the gold standard when it comes to evaluating a nominee's fitness to serve on the court. Senate Democrats must be concerned about Judge Gorsuch's past then. Again, that is not the case. No one was able to dig up anything remotely resembling a scandal in Judge Gorsuch's past during this process. You can't manufacture a controversy where none exists. Nothing about Judge Gorsuch has come to light during this confirmation process that could conceivably merit blocking a vote on the nominee. I've heard Senate Democrats try and argue that Judge Gorsuch is out of the mainstream. That hasn't stuck either. This is a judge that has been with the majority of the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals 99% of the time. 97% of his decisions were unanimous. Judge Gorsuch is about as mainstream as you're going to find. Editorial boards from newspapers across the country, including the USA Today, have written in support of his nomination. Does anyone honestly believe that USA Today, which is far from a conservative newspaper, would support confirming Judge Gorsuch for the Supreme Court if he was out of the mainstream? So now Senate Democrats are seemingly creating new standards out of thin air to justify this blatantly partisan act. According to their talking points, a nominee is now expected to tell the Senate and the American people exactly how he or she would rule on matters that may come before the court, especially in instances where the activist base has a very keen interest. As the Judiciary Chairman rightly pointed out, the standard set by Justice Ginsburg in her confirmation hearings that it would be inappropriate for a nominee to offer hints or make commitments on matters that may come before the court has been adhered to ever since. This leaves Senate Democrats with a filibuster that lacks a reason. The minority leader has suggested the Senate abandon Judge Gorsuch's nomination if cloture is not agreed to, and ask the president to submit a new nominee. This demand rings hollow. Here's the truth. If this nominee cannot get the Senate Democrats' blessings for a vote, then no nominee put forth by the president can. Again, we are talking about a nominee who has climbed to the top rung of his profession. Judge Gorsuch is well qualified and well within the mainstream. He was unanimously confirmed to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, and as I mentioned earlier, received the highest possible rating after an exhaustive evaluation from the American Bar Association. Senate Democrats failed to create outrage and controversy over Judge Gorsuch's nomination because there is simply none to be found. But that didn't let them stop. That didn't stop them. It's an amazing 180 turnaround. Senate Democrats who just last year pushed for an immediate vote at the height of a contentious presidential election now appears to be fine with leaving that seat vacant literally for years. Just last year, the minority leader sounded the alarm about the judicial chaos a deadlocked court could lead to. He appears to be no longer concerned about that. By this logic, A vacant seat on the Supreme Court for a few months would be a devastating blow for democracy, but one left open for years is wholly acceptable. This makes absolutely no sense. The only explanation for it is that Senate Democrats expected to be voting on a nominee put forth by a Democratic administration, not one put forth by President Trump. Judge Gorsuch will be confirmed to the Supreme Court this week. It is unfortunate that we may have to break long-standing precedent to do so, but Senate Democrats' actions are to blame for that. With that, Mr. President,